Collective. The Cover Collective. This is Cover Story. This is Cover Stories.
Hey, what's up? It's us again. It's another Wednesday night. And hello and welcome everybody. We are the Cover Collective. My name is Waki Acosta.
And I am Eric Hotchkiss, and this is episode 5 of Cover Stories.
Yeah, so
Hello.
episode 5.
Last week, guest natin si Mark Rodriguez, also known as Batas. Nasa wall pa yan, so panoorin nyo lang. Maganda episode yun. Nag-deep dive tayo kay Mark, musical influences niya, yung in hip-hop, in metal, tapos yung mga ginagawa ngayon mga trips pandemic ngayon.
Oo.
Pati yung mga merch business niya. Gawin natin.
So, tonight, may kasama tayong guest, Eric, di ba? Na naman.
Yes, sir.
Sino yan?
Sa mga manonood, sa mga nanonood, ang guest natin tonight ay isang writer, musician, producer, recording engineer, mixing engineer, studio engineer. Dami rin isa pa sa mga medyo madami yung laman ng resume. And in the past 2 years, kung nakapunta kayo sa mga kasal ng mga kaibigan nyo, malaki-laki yung chance na nakita nyo siya nagdi-DJ. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, ang ating guest tonight, Mr. DJ Joey Santos.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Joe.
Hi. Okay naman, let me just move my screen para I can see all of you and everyone watching. Yes, there's a way for me to view everyone who's watching on Facebook. I see you guys. Meron ang one screen per person. Hello. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Glinda. How are all of you?
Mas pro ka pa.
Cellphone lang gamit ko eh.
Kamusta kayo? How are you, Wack and Eric?
We're fine. We're very
good.
Ito.
si Wack, I've seen Wack on and off eh. Pag itong quarantine period, syempre like in distanced settings. Pero ikaw, Eric, I haven't been with you in over a year. So, kamusta ka? Kasi parang yung nakikita ko lang sa'yo parati is like yung videos na pumapalo ka, tapos naka-shades ka. And yun. So, ano bago sa'yo?
Okay lang, wala namang bago. Ito yung pinakabagong ginagawa namin ngayon. It's basically cover stories. Cover stories and yung Cover Collective, inaano namin siya. Nag-trip lang tayo dito. Diba? Actually, parang yung inalok nga namin like for the last video sa Sabotage. Nag-enjoy ka ba doon?
Yeah, I guess. Yes, masaya yan. Pinaulit sa akin ni Waki yun twice eh. So, nag-enjoy talaga ako.
Kasi nag-shoot ka naka-portrait.
Nag-shoot ako ng naka-portrait kasi yung idea para siyang cellphone video dapat.
Sa mga nanonood nung mga videos ng Cover Collective, itong guitar rack galing kay Joey yan. Kasi kumuha siya ng bagong guitar rack. So, yung guitar rack kay Joey yan. Dinaan niya dito.
Ayan pati itong nakikita mong mic sa likod ko ngayon, galing din kay Joey yan.
Ay, yung SM81 ba yan?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool.
Dahil
Wow.
sa
Magandang
mga hindi nakakaalam, si Joey ngayon ay nasa Love One Another Studio.
Yes.
Version 2. Diba?
So ngayon it's a mix of music and horticulture.
Yes, I can see.
So ganun. Ito lang yung tinatanim ko. So it's a dumb cane. Very very resilient plant. So
I see, to purify the air.
Okay. Indeed.
Speaking of purifying the air and air contaminants, segue. Last year, Joey, you DJ'd one of your last DJ gigs in person. While or in the midst of the
pagsabog ng Taal
volcano eruption?
Tama.
Can you tell us how that was like?
Bale, I think that kind of January. Kaka-anniversary lang din nun nung act of God nun. Si God, maraming ginagawa eh. So last, I was gonna play for a wedding. Biglang nagsiset up na ako. Tapos, yun, biglang naging maulap ng konti. Which was nice kasi parang medyo naging mas cool. Kasi mainit nung araw na yun eh. And then biglang naging maulap. So parang nice. At least hindi na tayo pinapuwisan. biglang nag-drizzle. So parang, naku, umuulan. Ha, 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 ha. Lalamig pa to. Nice one. So labasan ng jacket, ganyan. And then, biglang napansin nilang na parang nagturo sa akin yung sound system guy ko, si Wilkie. Parang nakaduro siya sa akin. Ganyan. Parang, bakit ka may putik sa mukha? Tapos ako parang, wala naman na. So tumingin ako sa mirror. Tapos yun, medyo nag-drizzle na ng ash. Ganyan. Tapos parang, abo, na first time ko na-experience kasi I'm sure you guys are older than me. So,
I'm your batch, Joey.
I'm sorry, yes. I'm just kidding. Pero naalala niyo yung Mount Pinatubo na eruption, di ba? Na lahat tayo, I know the three of us, nasa Manila tayo nun. And alala ko kasi, parang, nakatingin ako sa labas ng bintana, tapos may ashfall, di ba? And yung thing kasi noon, yung ashfall na yun, medyo dry siya. So parang siyang flakes. So when you go out, parang snow na delikado. Parang siyang snow na delikado. Pero nung time na yun, yung first time ko na maputikan, isipin mo to, galing to sa loob ng isang volcano, and it must have existed for like millions of years underneath the earth, and then suddenly it's on your face. So parang nung time na napaisip ako na parang ganun pala, yung may cycle of life na nangyayari. Na,
ang profound pala for you.
I was thinking about this the entire time. Tapos parang yung minamadali na ako ng sound system, tsaka si Ayel, yung videographer ko.
Na mag-setup.
Ade, alis na tayo dito.
Oo.
Kasi kalamidad yun di ba? And parang, when we were there,
kalamidad yun. Oo, kalamidad yun.
When you're in the situation, parang hindi mo siya maiisip na parang aabot sa atin. Kasi it's like a huge plume of smoke behind you. But like I have a photo and a video of it, like a huge plume of smoke behind us. Now you can point to it and say na parang, pumutok yung Taal. Malayo naman yan kasi you can see it. Ang layo nga naman talaga. And then slowly, habang pinapanood mo siya, makita mo na konting yung gumagano'n na siya.
Yeah!
Nakagano ka na. Parang, tapos puputikan ka na and everything.
Parang siya yung parang similar ba siya dun sa picture nung 90s, yung nasa back sila ng pickup tapos hinahabol sila ng
ano yun? Oo, pero grabe kasi yun. Award-winning photo yun. Yun nangyari kasi noon, they took that photo, they were there sa Pinatubo mismo, and they were driving away from it. So, lapit-lapit mo talaga nun, di ba? Kasi nasa paanan ka ng bundok eh. Ito naman kasi, malayo kami. I mean, like, there's a lake in between you. So,
that's true.
May time ka to escape, essentially. And that's what we did. Kasi, nag-abang kami ng konti, siguro for like a good 30 minutes kasi the organizer said, hindi, tuloy pa yung wedding, ganyan. And, by the looks of it, parang mukhang hindi na. Kasi, umuulan ng abo, and yung putik na yun, may weight siya. Just because it's heavy ash. So yung nangyayari, yung mga puno, bumabagsak na. And then yung mga tent, medyo gumuguho na. So medyo delikado, di ba? And it started smelling bad and stuff. And it's bad for you. You can't stay outside na matagal. So we all stayed inside. Yung natira na lang dun was us, yung sound system team, me, the sound system team, pati yung catering. Everyone else left. Yung manager left, the boss ng sa catering, as far as I'm concerned, left also. Iniwan niya yung staff and they didn't know what to do. So, no one knew what to do kasi wala eh. Parang kami lang yun nandun.
Oo nga.
So, ako na lang yung, parang naging de facto leader. Imagine how much of a poor situation that was na ako yung naging de facto leader, di ba?
So, okay, guys, here's the sitch.
So,
here's what we're gonna do.
Anong mando mo, Joey? Anong ginawa mo?
Sabi ko, parang ako ito gagawin natin. Kasi nagbibigay na ng alerts yung LGU ng Cavite or Tagaytay. Nung time na yun, na parang, okay, baka pumutok na yung volcano, it spewed that thing, pero there could be a bigger eruption on the way. So, kung yung kayang lumikas na kayo, or if you're still outside, stay indoors. So, we had to make a decision kasi we could stay there, and if we stayed there, we would have been stranded for a period that we didn't know how long. Could have been days, could have been weeks. Pero the more dangerous thing was, since we were very close to the ridge, kung pumutok man lang yung Taal, and like it was a huge explosion, na sa awa ng Diyos hindi nangyari. But if it was like a huge explosion, we'd be directly in the path of whatever happened.
And yung diba, yung hangin pa north, diba?
Yeah, so talagang it was headed straight for us. Ganun siya. So, yun, sabi ko, mag-decide tayo. So, sabi ko parang, okay, sana yung tubig na nandito, yung tubig na nandito, ipasok natin, i-ration natin yan kasi kailangan natin yan. So, yung catering was there. Yung mga pagkain, sabi ko, meron bang luto na pagkain dyan? Sabi niya, wala na.
Nag-survival mode ka talaga. Nag-survival mode si Joey.
Survival mode talaga. And then,
everyone, calm the fuck down!
medyo harrowing talaga siya eh. So
shit,
parang, you didn't know what would happen. So sabi ko, parang,
syempre,
what about the food? Ano yung food? So sabi na, meron pang frozen dito sa loob ng truck. Sabi ko, sige, iwan nyo lang muna dyan kasi wala tayong freezers dito. Walang kuryente.
Very good.
So parang, sige, lagay mo nandun. So at least we have food, we have water. If we get stuck here, we won't have to eat each other. I didn't say that. Pero in my head, ganun yung nangyayari. Tapos,
so saan kayo dumiretso after
yun,
that?
so we waited for like siguro mga 20 minutes, 30 minutes na medyo kasi yun spewed ash, and then after that, parang medyo nag-subside siya ng konti. We didn't know if it really subsided, pero from what we could tell, that would be the time to leave. Kasi nakakatakot din. Paglabas mo ng place, and we were in Angel Fields. For those who don't know, Angel Fields is like this really popular place where people get married. Basically, right before you hit the bridge of Tagaytay, nandun siya. So, paglabas mo dun, traffic na. Kasi everyone's like,
the main road na,
rushing to go down din. So para siyang meron siyang yung mga day after tomorrow vibes na parang if it does explode and you're on the road, parang either you run or you stay inside. Yeah. Ang hirap di ba? Wala. So we had to wait. And then after that, so mga 20-30 minutes sabi namin parang okay, sige, let's all go. Mauna muna kayo. And then wala. Kami ng sound system guy, parang we were like the last ones out, apart from the people who wanted to stay talaga, yung mga nakatira na dun, they wanted to stay. So yun, we kind of made sure na as much as possible, mauna na yung mga kayang lumikas and stuff. Nakatakot talaga siya. Kasi like, actually, the scariest part was driving down. Kasi yung weirdest thing about that is, pag nasa kalye ka, di ba, umulan, ayusin mo na yung wiper mo, okay lang, wiper fluid, pag if it's dusty outside, okay lang, linisin mo. Pag ginamit mo yun while you're driving, hindi
sira, hindi mag-ano yun
black siya. Black pa rin. So, kailangan dekamay mo siya tatanggalin.
Bubuksan mo yung bintana.
Bababa ka, bubuksan mo yung bintana. Tapos, wala pang masks nung time na yun. So, it really smelled bad, and syempre, it's bad for you din kasi it's like miniature glass.
Yeah.
Na pupasok sa lungs mo, di ba? Yun, so take yung sound system guy, may crew siya na siya mo ba parang naglinis ganyan. Yun, medyo yun yung nakakatakot yung pababa kasi parang hindi mo alam kung aabot ka o hindi.
Was that your last gig ng 2020?
Hindi
pa. Was that your last DJing gig ng 2020?
Hindi. After siguro a month after that, tumugtog ako ng sa Palawan. Tapos nung time naman na yun, pasimula na yung COVID.
Walang binatbat yung taal mo.
Yeah, another act of God. So yun, plague naman. This time, so habang tutugtog ako, parang dun pumapasok na yung reports na parang magkaka-travel ban from the States, travel ban from ganito ganyan. So it was probably like a week into the start of coronavirus, maybe a week or two into that. So yun.
Ito yung I remember mga Feb yan, di ba?
I'd say yeah, end of Feb, mga ganun.
So if that was your last gig ng 2020, kailan naging when was the first online gig that you did during the quarantine? Sige, explain mo muna kung paano nyo naisip. I mean, kasi hindi lang naman ikaw yung nagdi-DJ online during the quarantine. Pero, paano naging thing yon? Sige nga, sorry. Kasi
Zoom wasn't even like a super thing nun, diba?
Yung first talaga, I think, was around April. Siguro March or April, or end of April, ganun. Kasi meron akong friend na I heard about Zoom parties. There's this ongoing Zoom party called Club Quarantine. It's held in the States. Tapos LGBTQIA crowd siya na it's just fun and it happens every day. Tapos pwede ka lang sumali. You get like the Zoom code and then you jump in on your phone, ganyan. siguro that was happening mga March pa lang. So I was looking at it, checking like how the technology worked, how it works for music, ganyan. And at the same time, I was still working in my previous job, sa Digital DJ Tips, the world's largest DJ training school. I used to make like tutorial content for that, reviews for DJ gear, ganyan. Check nyo ngayon, digitaldjtips.com. So, nung time yan, gumagawa rin ako ng tutorial na parang, okay, paano ba mag-live stream? Since we can't go out and play in front of people, we have to do it online. Here's how to do it. Pwede kang Facebook Live. You can do it on Instagram. Parang ginawa ni Questlove, has really huge following because of that. No, not just because of that, but
Kasi si Questlove
parang alam mo, to add to it, yes. Kasi si Questlove yun, di ba? Pero yung IG live niya na yun yung pinakamalaking IG live for DJs.
Okay.
Yun. So, inaral ko lang yung how these things work. And then yung sa Zoom, parang nakita ko kasi na the idea behind it isn't so much na people are watching you play. It's more like people watching other people. Perfect yun. Kasi like kahit naman sa pagtumutugtog ako in real life, parang ganun naman yung idea eh. Like, I don't really care if like, you know, parang David Guetta with your hands up in the air, or Steve Aoki na para siyang concert. Hindi naman, for me, it's not like that necessarily. Diba? Parang matagal na tayong nagmu-music tayong tatlo. So like in the 90s, it was never like that for DJs. Parang you're like the dude at the back of the room with the crate of records and CDs na walang pumapansin sa'yo. Pero like nung mga 2010s, dahil nga sa EDM, biglang suddenly you're like this concert performer na
rockstar
hindi na siya ganun ngayon na naman. Alam mo yun? So parang nagano lang siya, nag-cycle in and out lang din. And we've seen that already. We're
So
really showing our age here. But
So yun ba yun, 2010 ba halos gano'n nagsimula yung pagiging parang nagkaroon ng parang rockstar status yung mga DJ?
I would say mga 2009 kasi 2008, 2009, naalala ko pumunta pa dito si Steve Aoki. Hindi pa siya gaanong kasikat nun. Siyempre may following na siya sa States, pero dito parang globally not that much. So, tumugtog siya ng Embassy, if you guys remember Embassy. Tapos, nagpapatugtog lang siya ng mga electro, early forms of EDM. And also, nagpapatugtog siyang Bulls on Parade. Yung mga ganun, tapos yung antics niya.
Okay.
Meron na yun a long time ago.
Nakasalang ka ba ever sa Super Club?
I don't think sa Embassy nakasalang ako kasi I was playing sa Palace. Yes, sa Valkyrie. Nakatugtog ako. Brewery. Yeah. Yun. Those places. I tend, mas gusto ko yung club, bars and clubs na maliliit. So, Ponty, for example.
2020.
Finders Keepers, Black Market, yung mga ganun. Kasi, wala lang. Gusto ko lang yung pwede kang sapakin ng tao. Kasi ang lapit mo sa kanila. Ganun. So
Pub SummerSlam.
So,
it hasn't happened, yes.
Guys,
pero may,
sa mga nanonood, narinig yun, gusto ni Joey sinasapak sa tao.
Wag naman. Pero like, I like, gusto ko yung intimacy.
I get yung intimacy nga.
Parang sa future, ganun din. Ganun sa future, which is why like, I really love that place. Kasi, parang katabi mo yung tao. It's,
mura pa yung drinks.
Yun. Mura pa yung drinks. So, hopefully, like at some point in the future, bumalik siya.
Do a lot of people who get you to DJ, do they know that you're also in a band? Or you play instruments other than the turntable?
I don't know. Not necessarily. Or like, I think the last comment I heard was from someone who said na parang, yeah, I think I heard this band. I think he's better being a DJ. Parang yun yung last ko na narinig.
I'm part of that band.
Yeah. Pero yun nga, I think the cool thing about our band, Halik ni Gringo, for those watching and unfamiliar, as I'm sure many of you are. Wala, kasi it's just something that we do for fun. And at the same time, parang yung following niya has dwindled to just us and our significant others and and our family, not even friends, family na lang. Ganun
So
siya.
basically para tayong legit underground ulit, ganun lang.
Yeah.
Imbes
Ganun,
na yung mga girlfriend niya nanonood, mga asawa na.
Asawa na, ganyan.
Before Halik ni Gringo, what was your very, 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 very first band?
I used to play in a band in high school with my classmates ko from Lasal Green Hills, and then you and I, Wacky, had a band in college. And then nag-away kasi kayo ni Custer, our drummer. So hindi siya nangyari. But after that, I guess my first actual band na parang who played in front of people who weren't people we knew was Boy Elroy. That didn't sound good. Pero yeah, Boy Elroy. So yun, parang punk band siya nung mid-2000s until around 2010, 2011. We were with Tower of Doom and yung singer namin si Conrad Javier, the little guy.
Paano ka in-invite to play for Boy Elroy?
Yeah, kasi yung nangyari noon was I think they needed someone to fill in for their guitarist who left for law school. Si Darren, who is now like the president of one of the longest running insurance companies in the Philippines. So that was nice. Yeah, congrats sa'yo, Darren. But yeah, he went to law school. So parang sabi ni Conrad, we need somebody who's gonna play the guitar. Kasi, this band is going places. We're gonna get serious, ganyan. I don't remember if he actually said that.
Cool ni Conrad.
I don't know if he said that.
This is around what year? Mga ano year to, Joe?
2000.
Ang Boy Elroy. Yung pagpasok mo sa Boy Elroy.
4? Mga 04. Okay. 03 or 4. Yun.
Listen here, see?
Talaga? Ganun pala kaaga. Okay.
Matagal na. And then, so basically, like, they had, Boy Elroy had like a really huge song, pangalan niya Out of Control, na parang sa underground punk and sa NU, it gets played on Sundays. Parang ganun siya. So may radio airplay naman. But yeah, they had like a really big hit there. And then, si Darren had to go to law school. So parang I had to sub in. And then, from then until like we disbanded around 2010, 2011, ako yung nagigitara for them.
Were you able to record sa Tower of Doom? Sabi mo you
Yes.
were under, okay.
Oo.
You were able to record a full album? A full album
Yeah,
ba?
the second album, ako yung naggitara. So, nag-record kami with Eric and the TOD crew.
And you shot
This
a
was-
music video there, di ba?
We shot a music video there with Los Magno of Out of Body Special. So yeah, these are all I'm referencing bands from like the 2000s kasi medyo may edad na tayo. Pero yeah, that was a while back.
Alala ko yung video na shoot niyo na una, para yung concept nun maglalasing lang kayo, di ba? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, essentially hindi kami maglalasing.
Okay.
Susuka kami. So
yun yung end goal.
like I think
Okay.
kasi like all of us could drink and get drunk, pero hindi naman yun yung point. Yung point, kailangan sumuka.
Okay.
So yun, bumili kami ng maraming beer, maraming Red Horse. Tapos, yun, isang grande, dalawang grande, ganyan. Tapos sukahan siya. And yun yung concept ng video. So yun, we started mga 2 p.m. lunchtime or something. Yun.
So,
yun.
nag-shoot din kayo ng video sa LOA, di ba? Sa basement na LOA.
Yeah, that was for another song naman. And this time, parang we needed like a gritty, parang parking space look na pwede maglagay ng inflatable pool. So, yun. Doon kami nag-shoot.
At guest dun yung isa nating keyboardist, di ba?
Si
Bonnie Bailey.
Yeah,
si
she's
Bonnie Bailey Beltran.
Si Nini ba yung isa sa mga babae? Okay.
And then you also got to go on the Siege tour. And I was telling you nung start ng pandemic, naghahanap ako ng stuff, well, mid-pandemic, naghahanap ako ng mga gig stuff sa YouTube kasi, 'di ba, syempre wala tayong gigs mapupuntahan. And then I chanced upon the Tower of Doom page na dinocument pala yung Siege tour ninyo. And marami siyang fun stuff doon na You got to travel and eat stuff. So can you tell us some stories from the Siege tour?
Marami akong parts actually na hindi masyado maalala. Not only because it was quite a while back, pero kasi literally every night, parang inuman siya to the max. Inuman to the max and then magigising ka maaga the next day. Tapos pupunta ka sa next town. Like, kind of like how you would... or like how a tour in the US is. Ganun. So parang life on the road siya for a week. Ganun.
And madami kayo banda dun, di ba? Sin kasama niyo, Bloodshed kasama niyo. Kayo?
Sin, Bloodshed,
Cog, kasama bang Cog doon?
May Cog, yung buong roster essentially ng Tower of Doom at the time.
Okay.
Yun.
Asaya nun, actually.
Masaya. So, yun, parang, alam mo, all boys and life on the road and everyone's still kind of young, yung game pa, ganyan. So, masaya talaga siya. And, actually, I think the only girls nung time na yun was si Dylan kasi siya yung host.
Okay.
Tsaka si Sib. No, si Sib yung co-host. He's not the other girl. Sib is the co-host. The other girl is Addie. Siya yung videographer. So all of the videos that you watch was because of Addie. Siya yung nag-video.
Okay.
No,
Yun.
Real quick, ano yung mga places you went to? Was it a northern thing? Or may Laguna kayo, diba?
Oh, may Northern Luzon, may Southern Luzon, and then may Visayas. Wala pang
may
Mindanao.
Visayas nga kayo.
Oo, wala pang Mindanao nung time na yun eh. We didn't have any stops then.
Pero diba you were planning, I think Tower of Doom was planning to actually extend it to Mindanao, diba?
Yes.
Parang magkakaroon dapat ulit yun, tapos magmi-Mindanao na.
Oh, I think it's because kasi the logistics of doing something like that with as many bands as you had in itself, nakakapagod na yun and very taxing siya, diba? Add to that the idea that you also have to coordinate with the street teams in each of those venues. Yep. Tapos coordinate mo yung accommodations, yung pagkain and everything. Nakaka-ano siya. Nakaka-stress siya. It's
very, very particular pa naman, I think. I'm sure very particular to sila Eric sa
nagdala ba kayo
yung gamit, di ba?
Nagdala ba kayo?
May dala ba kayo sariling gamit?
Mga gitara yung dala. Usual, pagpunta kang gig, dala kang gitara.
Okay.
Pero like everything else was what was there. Actually, for like the Visayas leg, wala kasing Boy Elroy nun. So yung ginawa ko, I still went, pero ako yung nag-record. Pati ako yung nasa board. So, yun. Kung ano yung meron nila doon, yun yung gagamitin mo. Parang ganun siya. So, yun. Sometimes, like, the equipment is okay. Most of the time, it's not. So, yun. You really have to make do with what's there. Pero kasi, when you're in a band, you're used to that. And also, when you're like a sound engineer, you're used to that. So, yun. Kailangan, it keeps you on your toes, I guess.
Kamusta yung reception nung towns you went to? Did they know you? At least, Boy Elroy at least?
I think yung pinakakilala at the time were Bloodshed, Sin, tsaka Imbuno Kudos. So the three of them, they were like the big bands. Tsaka April Morning Skies kasi pasikat pa lang yung metalcore ng time na yun and they were like the youngest band in the roster and they had the sound. Yun yung sound nung time na yun eh. So lahat ng metalcore kids, sila yung pinunta.
So marami dong first time kayo maririnig yung other bands, no? Or parang, do they send people ahead of time tapos papa-airplay dun sa local radio? May ganun ba?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
It's always like, parang underground lang naman kasi. So there would be radio guestings for like the larger cities. But for the most part, it's stuff that you do online. So, alam mo yun, parang they'll visit your MySpace page. They'll go to your Multiply. Ganon siya nung time na yun. Kasi like a nascent social media landscape. So,
Uy, teka, yung kwento mo pala yung sa Siege Tour, yung kinikwento mo yung nagbangka kayo or something.
Yeah. Kasi sa Siege Tour, meron kaming days off. Usually, like, it's before the last day of the whole tour, may pahinga kami, R&R. So, it just so happened na at the time we were malapit kami sa Guimaras. So parang nag-suggest na parang beach tayo dun. So sige, punta tayong beach. So nagbangka kami papunta dun. And then yung mga bangka kasi, yung Guimaras kasi as an island, paikot siya. like all islands. Pero mahaba yung medyo shallow water niya. Tsaka ma-coral, tsaka rocky. So hindi ka pwede, yung malaking na bangka, hindi siya pwede pumunta dun kasi masisira yung ilalim niya. So what they usually do is they'll but they'll throw their anchors down around in a perimeter na parang hanggang dito lang tayo, tapos hintayin na lang natin yung maliit na bangka para i-ferry tayo from the boat to the shore. So yun, dami namin, di ba? Daming banda nun eh. So pag park na ng mga bangka dun, hintayan kami. Tagal, tas mainit. Syempre, tanghaling tapat, medyo mainit. So yung mga bangka darating one by one. So slow. So parang someone had like this brilliant idea. Hindi ko alam kung si Bike Viñas nasa JB siya ngayon. Hi Bike, if you're watching. Si Bike Viñas, one of the Bloodshed guys. Nakalimutan ko na. Basta may nag-suggest na parang nandun lang naman yung shore eh. Langoyin na lang natin yan. Malapit lang yan na magsiswimming lang tayo. Tsaka mababaw naman yung tubig eh. So, it was lunchtime. Eh, syempre, kami parang bakasyon eh. So, nakainom na. So, parang, nga, tama ka. So, yung ginawa na namin, parang ako, meron akong bag. Parang iniwan ko na lang yung bag ko. Padala na lang yan ha. So, talo na ako sa water, di ba? So, parang, sige, swimming tayo. So, swim, ganyan. Okay naman kasi you could see like the bottom, ganda, di ba? Parang may fish pa, may coral. Good idea to, Bike. So, parang, yes. Ganun, yes.
Good idea, Bike.
Good idea. Siguro, after like, mga 5 minutes, yung medyo pagod na ako, hindi ako fit nung time na yun eh. Hindi ako nag-exercise. Medyo hingal na ako noon, pero sabi ko parang lapit na siguro to kasi kanina po tayo nagsiswim eh. So, pagtingin ko ng gano'n, I know how to swim. So, pagtingin ko ng gano'n, inisip ko parang the shore's just right there. Pagtingin ko, sobrang layo pa rin niya. As in, parang hindi ako lumapit at all. And then, nung time na yun, sabi ko parang medyo kalokohan to kasi ang lapit ko pa rin sa boat. Tapos ang layo pa ng shore. And then the rest of the guys who jumped, there were like 5 or 6 of us lang. The rest stayed sa boats. Tapos kami lumalawin lang kami sa parang, basta dire-diretso lang tayo kasi nandito na eh. Di ba? So,
commit na lang, mag-commit na lang.
Commit ka na lang. So like after a good, 20 minutes of swimming? It seemed much longer than that. After a good 20 minutes of swimming, umabot namin sa shore. So parang sabi ko, ayoko nang gawin uli yun ever again. Kasi parang I looked at like my knees, sugatan ako. Kasi nga mababaw siya. Puro coral pa. So sugatan talaga as in bleeding, like red and everything. So again, may mga times kasi na gano'n na iniisip ko parang ba't ako nagkamali, di ba? Parang was so close, ganyan, and everything. So, pag uwi ko from Siege Tour, parang di-research ko bakit. And it's the same concept as when you are in the desert, di ba? Parang, kunyari, nasa desierto ka, may nakita ka na parang stopover or like over this hill. It seems so close, and the reason for that is because it's an illusion. Simply because everything surrounding the place that you're standing or your perspective, pareho kasi yung itsura niya. So yung mountain up ahead looks like you could cross it in like the next 20 minutes, but could take like a day. So parang ganun din siya sa tubig. And doubly so dahil lumalangoy ka. So it becomes even harder.
Mas mabagal ka sa tubig.
Yeah, and alam mo yun, you could drown. Pwede kang,
there might be sharks. There might be a shark.
So yun, after nun, sabi ko parang, actually, hindi ko alam, I'm not even sure talaga kung si Bike yung nagsimula nun. Pero in my head siya eh. So sabi ko dun after nun, hindi ko na siya nakalimutan. Parang, I don't want to listen to advice like that ever again. I have to make my own decisions from now on.
Lesson for the day.
Kasi yung masaklap pa dun was on the way home from that, syempre yung malilit na bangka, di ba? Mabalik sa boat. Yung isang bangka tumaob. Yung isang malilit na bangka tumaob. So parang sinalos yata yun. Yung parang tumatalon patuhan ng bag sa barko. Parang gano'n. Parang di mabasa.
Ang saya.
Yeah, so
Baka nga hindi biro yan, 20 minutos na lang, Chong.
It was, medyo malayo siya eh.
Hindi biro ang 20 minutos na lang.
Malamang nag-yosi ka pa nun, di ba?
Oh.
Tapos lasing kayo na.
The more I think about it, the more I realize na meron talagang pwede magkaroon ng touring circuit yung Philippines especially now, kasi, well, before nagkaroon ng COVID, flights were so cheap, relatively. And at the same time, it was easier than ever to get in touch with people wherever you are in the country. And at the same time, even you go to the provinces, tapos they have the infrastructure to put on a show. Yung mga parang fiesta, di ba? Yun. So,
may internet
yun,
support
you
ka
could
pa.
do that.
Oh.
Yeah, you could do that. Do like an independent version of it. It'd be a lot easier to manage now. Eh, syempre, like, when the pandemic is over, I'm sure maraming magkakaroon ng ganyan just because the demand for something like that is through the roof.
Yeah. After Boy Elroy, you formed another band, yung Gringo nga, yung kayong dalawa magkasama. Paano nagsimula naman yon? Was it while you were in Boy Elroy or nag-overlap ba sila or paano ba? Paano ba yung timeline ng Gringo?
Oh, yeah. Yung Gringo kasi para siyang barkada band. So, habang lahat ng members may banda, may isa pa silang banda, which is Halik ni Gringo. So, from like 2005, 05, 06, until today, yun, nandun lang siya. So, it's something that happens concurrently. And that is a huge part of why the band is what it is at the moment. Kasi, alam mo, it's not like something that we decided it to become like, this big touring band. It's more like, dito tayo let's just let our hair down in a way and just do stuff that we like. Parang ganun siya. So, it was the outlet at the time until all of our main bands suddenly, hindi naman suddenly, pero parang over time, nawala lang din kasi all bands more or less have a shelf life. Yeah. Because of life, stuff happens.
Ang naiwan, Gringo. Gringo ang naiwan, di ba?
Oh,
Gringo ang naiwan. Yun nga, yung sabihin ko, Gringo ang naiwan.
Let's switch gears for a second here. So parang we know that you're broadcasting from your studios, your Love One Another studios. Pero it's when did you first? It's not the first location. So when did you first start it, and how did you think of starting a recording studio?
Yeah, the first location of the studio was in our family den sa bahay. It's my dad's den na parang gusto ko lang mag-record ng banda ng kaibigan in college. So yun, and then it got to a point na ang dami na kasi nakatambak na stuff. Like kunwari, yung sa band natin whack, nandun nag-iwan ng gamit doon and nagre-rehearse, ganyan. So suddenly it became very messy. Tapos yun, nagalit na yung dad ko as he rightfully should have. Nagalit siya, tapos parang lipat nyo na lahat yan. So yun, nilipat natin into like this other space in Libis. And then that's where it started. It was this thing that we did after work and after school. So yun, hobby and at the same time like a side hustle, I suppose. Na syempre at the time like it wasn't as serious naman. It was more like a place to hang out and just make music and parang yun. Just hang out with friends.
Ever since, diba? Like ever since high school or even before that, you were interested in sound production and everything. So parang going into making a recording studio, did you already know, or were you constantly reading up and trying new software, techniques, blah blah blah?
I think yes, you had to do that only because there wasn't really yung internet at the time, wala pang video. So wala kang mapapanood na tutorials. The only tutorials you could see online were like text files. So tipid mo yun.
Buying yung mga magazine, yung mga
buying magazines,
diba?
Mix
magazines
magazines, yeah.
Mix magazines.
There and parang the way to learn how to work inside of a studio was to be an apprentice. Like kunyari, ikaw, Eric, you've spent time with Angie in tracks.
Nag-apprentice ako sa tracks, yeah.
Oh, yun. So that was the way it was done. It still is the way it's done for like bigger spaces here and abroad. Pero noong time na yun kasi, I don't think there was anyone I could apprentice under. Nobody wanted to take in like a kid na interesado sa ganun. So I just took it upon myself to figure stuff out. Bili ka lang ng Fruity Loops, learn how it works. Bili ka ng Reason, learn how it works.
Sonar ang gamit nyo sa unang ng LOA, di ba?
Yeah, so for those who don't know what that is, basically like when you record audio onto a computer, you use software called the digital audio workstation. So iba-iba yan. And basically parang nung time na yun, there were already a lot. So you could pick whichever one you wanted. So ako, parang I like technology. So sinubukan ko lahat, and then I just figured out the ones that I liked. And yun, hanggang ngayon, parang every day there's something new to learn, especially since yung cycle and trends in music keeps getting smaller or shorter and shorter. So yun, you have to be updated, especially if you want to produce music for like other people, or kung magdi-DJ ka, parang you need to keep an ear close to the ground. If you want to get into something like that. So
going back to your point din na parang ng time na yun, the only thing to do was mag-apprentice eh. Pero like, if you wanted to do that, kung wala kang connection, ano yung first step mo, diba? Like, ikaw, Eric, ano yung first step? May kilala ka na ba sa tracks?
Kaya may connect
so,
ako sa tracks. So,
kailangan mo ng connection, diba? Pag, diba, dati? And,
well, hindi. Ganito. Madami naman akong nakilala din na, for example, nag-apprentice sa tipong Pink Noise, nag-apprentice sa Green Hill Sound, nag-apprentice sa ganito, na sila mismo yung nagpresenta. Sila mismo yung pumunta, nag-apply sila sa kumbaga. Hindi naman kailangan may connection talaga.
Tsaka, and then back then, hindi rin ganun karami yung, well, compared to now, syempre, yung mga studio, diba? Like, it was very expensive to put up a studio, right?
Hindi, kasi nung ako nag-apprentice, basically halos
hindi, ako nga. I mean, like, yung sinasabi ko lang na
recording studios ng time na yun, analog. Analog
diba?
pa lahat nun. So, talaga sobrang mahal pa. Talaga mag-ano ng studio nun.
So, parang ano siya eh.
So, ang yun na nga.
Yeah, sakto yung timing nung ginawa. Ano ba yung una mong ginamit first off, Joey? Yung Sonar talaga? Or Fruity Loops to record?
Fruity Loops and Reason.
A Reason. Okay.
Yeah, and before Sonar kasi, pangalan niya Cakewalk Home Studio, so it was Cakewalk
9.
Pro Audio 9, yes.
Yun, or something.
Ginagamit ko pa rin para mag-piano roll ng drums. Cakewalk 9.
Wala, I guess it's only because yung Pro Tools kasi it's the most popular software for recording engineers, mainly because it's what's used in like the biggest studios.
Standard siya.
Yeah, so parang medyo all of the other DAWs parang naging either niche na lang sila, or it's used by like, you know, a handful of, not a handful, but like quite specific types of production, parang ganon.
Sa latest incarnation of Love One Another, tell us what you've been doing there. You've been producing stuff for Brysom, Siddhartha, and you've been streaming Sponge Cola, right?
Sponge Cola, yeah. Nakikita ko.
Sponge Cola, parang they initially they wanted to work on a new record, and they wanted to try, just work with other people, parang ganun. So we were gonna do like 1 or 2 songs. They approached me like late last year, and then biglang nagkaroon na lang ng talks of like, hey, why don't we do like a live stream on our Facebook page para at least the fans have something to watch habang hindi natin alam kung kailan babalik yung mga shows. Yun. So it kind of just went from there, and now we just finished like working on the album na siya. So it's like at the mixing stage, editing na lang, and then we still do like a monthly live stream, and the live streams do well. I think it's because they have a very active fan base on Facebook. Dun concentrated talaga yung audience nila, more than like on their YouTube or Instagram. It's really on Facebook. That's where they spent a lot of time and effort on. So yun, all the years that they spent building that, then nag-pay off siya kasi something that no one expected would happen actually happened, and now we're all stuck at home. What are we gonna do, diba?
Pero yun, kwento mga Joey kasi syempre, diba, ang daming, for example, ang daming mga establishments ngayon that they have certain safety protocols ngayon, di ba?
Yeah.
Kaya walk us through nga kung ano ang ginagawa. For example, for a live stream ng Sponge Cola, how many people are usually involved in that live stream? Tsaka ano yung ginagawa ninyo to adhere to yung mga safety protocols nga for the pandemic ba?
Okay. What we do, well, ako, first off, what I do is every month I get a test. It's an antigen swab test, which is readily available. And I get it just as part of like my own due diligence. Na I just want to make sure okay ako. And also, it's just good to do. It's good to get used to it then. And then sila, they do their own tests and then they submit the results to me before they arrive in the studio. And then when they get into the studio, it's just 5 people, max. 5 or 6 people max in the live room. So it's the 4 of them plus their manager, si Sol, and their road manager, si Trix. Minsan wala pa si Trix. And then all of the control room stuff is me. Mag-isa lang ako. So I do the lighting, I do the camera work, I do the audio.
Wow, okay.
Yun.
Grabe yun
Kasi ano naman siya, kaya naman siya gawin because you have like stuff like Zoom or alam mo may software na that helps you manage all these things. Pero a lot of it is still parang manual mo pa rin gagawin eh. So yun, okay naman, multitasking siya kasi you have to keep the numbers low. Syempre to keep like the possibilities of transmission as low as possible. And yun, the whole time naka-mask. Naka-mask ako the whole time. Sila naka-mask. So si Yael lang hindi naka-mask because he has to sing. So yun.
Ito lang, balik ko lang. Nakikita ko sa live stream ng Sponge Cola na yung drum set na ginagamit nyo, is it the same drum set na Route 196?
Oo. Kasi Route 196 closed, kailan ba? Parang late last year. And then, yun. Yung gear was being sold. Sold. So sabi ko parang, I want the drums. And at the same time, maganda siyang piece of like history.
Yeah, tama.
Artifact.
OPM artifact. That's couldn't have said it any better.
Gusto ko lang tanong din na parang, so you obviously we've also tried to perform live pero we produce the video and then i-stream siya. And then there are people like Sponge Cola and Mayonnaise who do like regular parang performances, diba? So it's obviously very different from a band going to different venues and playing the same set. Like how do you think this will go? Na parang obviously you can't perform the same songs. Like you can't produce, kunyari magagawa ka ng gig na produce mo video mo. You can't have the same songs twice or the same video kasi they've seen it already and it's probably on archive somewhere, diba? And at the same time, if you have like a regular, let's say, sa garahe mo may live stream ka and then you have a regular performance ng band mo na nagla-live kayo. Is it, how do you go about performing and not being stale kung may isang setlist lang kayo?
Okay.
When you go to a concert, there are songs you expect to hear from the band.
Yeah.
Like kunyari, you go to a Metallica concert, you know what the songs are going to be, and you'd be upset if they didn't play those songs. So in the same way, when you do a live stream for a band, it's the same idea. Na you always have like the songs that you always play, and then you change the set list. Siguro pata mo like 20% of it, 25% keep things fresh. Parang ganun. I think the answer to your question is just like when you go to a gig, bands don't always play new things.
That's
they
true.
play stuff they want to play, diba?
Pero diba people who go to gigs go to the gig for the venue eh. The venue, the people, diba? It's been taken away. Diba? So ang hirap eh.
Okay. So the question is, if you're playing the same songs, what keeps people interested?
Well, what can you do to make people interested?
Okay. Kasi yung napansin ko from all of the live streams that we've been doing and also all of the live streams that other bands have been doing, kahit nga yung mga Tiny Desk or KXP, they do all these things. It's what I think the most important. There are 2 things that you can do whenever you have like a band performing in the studio. Number 1 is you can have live engagement with the band, which is why a live stream tends to do better, not all the time, but it tends to do better than a pre-recorded performance that is streamed live. Simply because the band can look at the comments and mag-shoutout ka, ganito, ganyan. That live interaction, that's the number one yun. The second thing that also works, and this is more along the lines of what you'd see on, KEXP or Audio 3 or Tiny Desk, is you have the band performing and then there is commentary in between the songs, and it's intelligent commentary na parang hindi lang siya, okay, ganda ng kanta nyo. Bakit yun yung title ng kanta? Hindi siya ganun eh. It's like curation talk. Usually music journalists yung kausap, di ba? So kunyari, if we were to have like a local version, it would be, kunyari, Jason Caballa or Joey Dizon or Aldo Santos talking in between band songs and chatting with them. Si Louis Ocampo had something similar recently. Louis Ocampo and si Robin Rivera, they have a show together, parang mini-series lang, na they get bands in, they play songs, and then they talk about the songs. Yung mga ganun, that works as a pre-recorded thing kasi may konting production involved and at the same time, the conversation is what makes it interesting. Pero I think kasi na parang yung mga pre-recorded performances that you just stream, okay siya nung start, pero I think people aren't as engaged with that anymore. Kasi, you could just watch it again on like YouTube and wala kang opportunity to actually get in touch with the people behind the lens.
Parang gumawa ng low-budget music video, which is exactly what we do. Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Pero ganun siya, diba?
Yeah. It's like a music video, yeah. Tama. That's precisely it.
Joe,
pero alam mo,
go.
ang napansin ko, Wak, one thing I wanna point out sa sinabi mo, kasi tinanong mo, what can bands actually do para to keep the audience like interested? Napapansin mo ba ang Mayonnaise will never play their song exactly as it is on the album?
Yeah.
And they've been doing this kahit before pa.
Yeah.
Kahit sa mga live gig nila since 2000, kopong-kopong, gano'n na sila. Lagi may bala yan. So I guess, that's an answer to your question.
I think
things interesting.
You can't play the same way you played in a gig.
Yun na nga. Babaliin mo konti. Ayusin mo konti. Kaya hanga talaga ako sa Mayonnaise kasi medyo na-master nila yun eh. Na-master talaga nila yung pag ganun eh. Yung, alam mo yun, yung kahit simpleng titigil lang sa gitna na isang kanta, yung simpleng tatanggalin lang yung drum sa isang kanta, is babalik sa bandadulo. Alam mo yun, yung mga ganun kasimpleng mga bagay lang, ang intelihente nun para sa akin. And it keeps the people interested. Kasi parang, pupunta ngayon sila sa gig ng Mayonnaise, iisipin nila, ano kayang gagawin nila sa Bakit Part 2 ngayon. Yung tipong ganun, di ba? So yun, yun ang tingin kong pwedeng gawin ng mga banda to keep
basta
the audience
end of the day,
interested.
kailangan bago na di ba? You've had several tracks on Spotify na made some lists, right? Mga ambient songs.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, meron akong at the start of like yung COVID, kasi yung kwento nun was at the start of the lockdown, March or April, basically, COVID in Europe was already parang may foothold na siya on Europe. And the company I worked for is based in the UK. So at the time, parang they were already expecting, at least yung company, they were expecting already na magkakaroon ng steep decline in terms of DJ-related activities and that kind of thing. So nung time na yun, parang I got the news na I was gonna get laid off from work. Sabi ko parang, fair enough. Kasi like syempre as a business person, ako like, I own a small business. I would do exactly the same thing, diba? Try to keep your expenses as low as possible, ride this out, and then, kuha na ng uli ng tao when things are better. That's how businesses work in something like this or when you're in a bear market. So yun, nung time na yun, I was thinking na parang, okay, so they were gracious enough to give me like 2 months notice instead of just, the usual 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Ganyan. So medyo, I had time. Inisip ko parang, okay, what would I want to do after working in this job that I absolutely love doing for the last 7 years? Ano yung gusto kong gawin next? And syempre,
7 years? I did not. Okay. Wow. Okay.
7 years ako din.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah, and I think it's good to talk about this kasi I know there's some people listening or probably somebody who would watch this in the future na parang they were in that same situation or they'd find themselves in the same situation. So you might find it useful. When something like that happens kasi, na you have a source of income and then mawala yan. And biglang hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin mo next. It's okay to kind of just spend a bit of time thinking about what you want to do and also to try. Kasi I know some people na they were in the same spot as I am na they lost their work and then they scrambled for next things straight away. They didn't necessarily have to, but it's more of like the idea na kailangan meron na uling kapalit.
Panic siya eh.
Diba? I mean, of course, you'd panic about something like that, and you ganun ka rin whack, diba?
Yeah.
You also had that. You were in that situation also, in your job. So this will be very familiar to people. Pero it's okay to just like stop first and think about what you want to do next. So nung time na yun, I was figuring out what I wanted to do, and naisip ko na parang okay. So one of the things that I could actually start doing. Since I now have like a shit ton of time because I'm technically unemployed, I could start working on my music again. So something I've always wanted to do was to make parang instrumental music na pampatulog because I've always had like a hard time sleeping. And dati, nung I used to party hard, nahirapan din ako matulog, so I'd also listen to like some parang Brian Eno stuff, ganyan. Yung mga parang droning stuff na nakahantok. So gumawa na ako ng sarili ko, and then put them up on like Spotify and other streaming services. And parang nobody listened to it. I don't think anyone still listened to it on Spotify. Pero for some weird reason, it got picked up by Apple Music. And yun. So it's...
Okay. Okay.
But I got picked up by Apple Music. So it's in like the pure ambient playlist of Apple Music. It's in the essential sleep playlist, something like that. Music. And then mapapansin mo kasi like you could look at the stats of the music that you put out. You can see like the number of plays always rise during the week, Monday to Friday, and then magdidip yan Saturday, Sunday. So, like when people are like fucking stressed, they listen.
Pag weekend din nila kailangan.
Pag weekend din wala nang trabaho, diba? So yun. So
how can they find these? How can they find these pieces of music?
You can just search for DJ Joey Santos. Yun lang. Tapos lalabas lahat ng ambient stuff. Kasi the only music I've been putting out is ambient music. And they all kind of sound the same.
Can you make,
anyway.
how haba yung mga ambient music? Kasi I remember gumawa kami ni Moman, alala mo sa LOA, gumawa kami ni Moman ng aromatherapy music. They're usually long and tones lang siya, diba? So are these like mga 15 minutes, ganyan?
Hindi naman. Yung sayo nga, the ones that you used to make before were more melodic. And
okay.
That's great for that. Yung parang mas more on the new age side yung ginagawa mo. Yung mga flute, yung may parang mga crystals, chenes. Yung ginagawa ko lang is like super basic. My idea is, I use sampled strings kasi, and basses. So yung ginagawa ko is sinestretch ko yung, sinestretch ko yung limit of the sampled sound as far as it can go in order for it to still sound like a sampled string, for instance, or a sampled brass, parang ganyan. Isi-stretch ko lang siya and then I'll see how far it can go and then I could be like, okay, so how can I make this fit into one measure? Parang ganun. Pero usually like the compositions are between like 3 to 5 minutes kasi I found that if it was longer than that, people tend to skip. I know, right? People tend to skip because they find ambient music boring. Why are you listening to ambient music in the first place? No, joke lang yan. But I get it. Ganyan. So what I've been doing recently is mas maikse, mga 3 minutes na ganyan. And then, kasi what people like to do is they listen to a playlist tas iba-ibang mood siya. Kasi yun, not all ambient is relaxing. Parang sa akin lang naman yung relaxing. Yung iba parang maingay siya na ambient or tipong pensive siya na ambient. So they're all like so different. And yun, doon ako na-introduced to the idea na parang, wow, there are people who actually listen to this stuff and they're not in the Philippines. Parang ganun. Kasi wala tayong for that eh. Which is, di ba, it kind of makes sense in the same way that dance music, instrumental dance music is really big in Europe. Pero sa atin, hindi. Kasi walang lyrics. Tayo kasi we like
singing along. We like to sing along. Yeah. Ayun, and as we wind down, Joey, can you want to plug your socials?
Is there anything you want to?
Yeah. Ano lang, at DJ Joey Santos. Add me on LinkedIn. It's great. Tapos I think for those who are interested in trading things, yung cryptocurrency, I've taken a keen interest in it for the last 6 months. May time ako mag-aaral ng ganun. So parang interesting siya kasi when you think about it, either cryptocurrency or stocks, it's essentially like parang nag-aaral ka lang human behavior. So
naglalabas ka ng pera.
Not necessarily. You don't have to like spend. Pero it's more like just watching how these things work. Pati yung looking at charts. Lang siya human behavior siya. So parang sobrang interesting lang niya for me. And doon ako nagbababad lately. Just reading up about it or figuring stuff out on my own. Parang ganun.
Have you invested? Have you invested in
just like a super tiny lang. Just enough to know how things work. And then, it's always it's hindi siya wala kasi siyang science. It's just human
patterns.
Human patterns. Pattern
na may halong hula. May halong hula yan, di ba?
There's a bit of luck. It's hindi siya sugal but it is pattern recognition. I won't even say it's necessarily about numbers, but it's more about pattern recognition. And nung nalaman ko yun, doon ko biglang naisip na parang bakit hindi yun yung tinuturo sa atin sa school? Yung ganong klaseng practical mathematics. Hindi yung parang fucking geometry or trigonometry.
Mga if train A leaves.
Yung mga ganun, di ba?
First off, sino gumagawa ng train na pag ganun yung cast off, di ba?
Oo nga
Anong klaseng stasyon yan na may...
yung mga ganung problems, for me, parang it's great if you want a career in math. Pero hindi siya practical, di ba? I just wish they taught us na lang, yung mga like, yung charts, like in stocks, for example,
actually,
which is like super basic statistics, di ba?
Actually, ako, sobrang matutuwa ako, tinuro sa atin yung paano mag-apply sa BIR. Paano ilakad ng papel sa BIR, yung mga ganun, di ba?
NBI clearance. Paano pamili ng mahaba?
NBI clearance. Di ba? Paano gawin yung mga ganun? Ano pa, Joe? I mean, LOA.
Plug your...
the thing that you're doing with Sponge Cola is that, kumbaga, if someone or if a band or a performer or an artist would want to record with you at this time during the pandemic or do a live session also sa'yo, will they be able to contact you for that? Is that something that...
you can you can slide into my DMs and we can figure something out. Kasi yung ginagawa ko ngayon, parang as much as possible, ayoko rin na masyadong maraming people come into contact with each other. So I really space all of the sessions out. Just keep things as safe as possible. If somebody comes into contact with someone and then biglang you're part of that bubble, I want to avoid that So talagang konting-konti lang yung ginagawa ko ngayon. Pero we can always schedule something naman. If you want to work on like the production side of things, or if you're like a singer-songwriter, tas kailangan mo ng parang, meron akong chords dito, pero I don't know what to do with them. My lyrics I don't know what to do with them. So sometimes I help out in that aspect na parang, okay, so let's work on the music. I'll help you arrange this. Ayusin natin yung mix. Ganun.
Okay. So nagpa-producer ka din. Kumbaga you also play that role.
Essentially, okay. Yes. Parang produce and create. Parang kayo, yung ginagawa niyo rin. Essentially, it's like, I think everyone who records something is a music producer just because alam mo na kagad yung fundamentals of how to get audio into something digital that's recorded, diba? So that in itself is already like a huge part of being a music producer. So yun.
Tsaka yung yung pag-DJ mo, for example, kasi diba, now you're doing online DJing. Meron ka ba sarili mong gig or lahat ng mga gigs mo, basically mga events that you're actually hired? Meron ka bang in-organize sa sarili mo like DJ Joey Santos for tonight na ikaw nag-organize and then may mga tao pwede sumali? May ganun ba?
Dati I used to do that. I think the first one I did, back to your question at the very beginning of the call. I think yung first one, the first one was like the one I threw for like my birthday nung June. Yun, and then what I do kasi para magpa-partner ako with, kunyari, like I did like a couple with Hip House Davao, mga friends ko in Davao. Yun, we did like a Zoom thing. So I don't create my own gigs because I think, especially now, parang feeling ko medyo napagod na rin yung mga tao with using Zoom. Mainly because it's what they also use for work. So parang there's that feeling na parang, okay, it's kind of like I'm staring at a screen again. But this time, like, I have a drink. Parang ganun siya. So I try not to do it as often anymore. Pero once in a while, yeah, for like a special occasion, we'll do it. Or if somebody invites me, like yesterday, Sunny's was like, wanted me to play for their staff. Parang, sige, of course, I'll do it for their staff. They're all great, hardworking people. So, game. Okay. Yun.
All right, and they can follow your page. They can follow DJ Joey Santos on Facebook.
At DJ Joey Santos.
At DJ Joey Santos. Tama. All right.
GJ. All right.
VJ
Joey Santos.
VJ Joey Santos.
All right. Thank you very much, Joey, and thank you for that. 12 people who stuck around to watch and ask questions.
Yep.
So, thanks
guys.
And then let's collab on new music soon.
Yep. So, we can. You can see sa ilalim if you're watching. Those who are watching, you can follow us on Facebook. All right, follow us on Instagram and on YouTube. Just type the Cover Collective. Nandun lahat ng mga videos namin. These live videos, wala sa mga yun. Nandito lang to sa Facebook, but they're gonna stay online naman. So if you wanna rewatch it, watch it for the first time, sige lang. Yun
All right.
And please
make sure you let us know what you think and how we can improve, and then marami tayong followers pero walang likes. How can that be? So like the page also and tell your friends.
Ang pinaka-importante yon. Tell your friends.
Yeah.
Yep, share the love. Yun.
So once again, for the Cover Collective, I am Wacky Acosta.
And this is Eric Hotchkiss, and this has been Cover Stories.
Right, bye.
Salamat, guys. Bye, Joey. Thank you.
From the Cover Collective. This is Cover Story.